think the tragedy is that we have a Congress with a Senate that has a minority of misguided senators who will use the filibuster to keep the majority of people from even voting. They won't let the majority of senators vote. And certainly they wouldn't want the majority of people to vote because they know they do not represent the majority of the American people. In fact, they represent in their own states a very small minority. Senator Eastland of Mississippi represents a very small minority of the number of people who live in that state. And I think this is true all across the South.
Well, is not this part of the American system? And then you would, in effect, change the system so that there would be dictation from executive office rather than legislation under our present system of representation?
Well, this is a system, but it is not democratically applied in so many southern states. Let us take the state of Mississippi as an example. You have about 20,000 Negroes registered to vote in the state of Mississippi. Now, many of these people are not registered because all types of conniving methods are still being used to keep Negroes from becoming registered voters. And in fact, some are even killed for seeking to lead voter registration drives, so that the democratic process is not operative in situations like Mississippi and Alabama and so many of the other states, southern states, where there is this determined effort to keep Negroes from becoming registered voters.
Isn't that something? Everything old is new again. History is repeating itself, you understand. And this is why we're not going to celebrate Martin Luther King Day this year. We're going to commemorate it, but we're not going to celebrate it. No celebration until we get legislation. So we could just say, oh, today is a day where, for some damn reason, the post office is closed. Maybe we could do that. I don't know. Some people get the day off work. Not a whole lot of people get the day off of work. So I would say that's because I've never taken this day off, the third Monday in January. I've never taken it off because the work is never done. The work is never done, especially the work of voting rights, the work of Martin Luther King Jr. It's never done. So, just let's commemorate it today. And if you want to do it in the South, just go about your business, but do it in a slightly less racist way. I don't know what to say to you people. I honestly don't. But look, this is the truth about Martin Luther King Jr. That was 1963, by the way. 73, 83, 93, 2003, 2013, 2020, almost 60 years ago. Okay, right. And somebody, stuck a gun in his face, and shot him when he was only 39 years old. And in that short span of life, this man gave us so much hope and so much determination that we could form a more perfect union. Beginning at the tender age of teenagehood, he started writing down his brilliance. He started to, document his thoughts, and his thoughts were so brilliant. And this upset white people in this country to the point where, and here's a little factoid for those of you who want to commemorate him today but aren't sure how to go about it, in just this. The Martin Luther King Jr. of today, the one that has a holiday named after him, is a very whitewashed character. He's almost a caricature of the real Martin Luther King Jr. The real Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he never enjoyed, let's say, a popularity rating. He never enjoyed a majority of Americans supporting his efforts. And that's kind of sad, but it's true. I think there wasn't a single day when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was alive where a majority of white Americans ever approved of him. In 1966, there was a Gallup poll, and that Gallup poll measured his approval rating at 32%. 63% of Americans had a negative view of Dr. Martin Luther King. A Harris poll in the same year, 1966, showed that 50% of whites felt Dr. King was, quote, hurting the Negro cause of civil rights. Only 36% of Americans thought he was helping. So now we have this whitewashed view of him that is palatable even to Arizonans. Yes, I think Arizona was the last state John McCain voted against a national holiday for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Yes. So even in Arizona, I think people are proud and happy that Dr. Martin Luther King is, somebody that we commemorate, is a symbol of hope, is a symbol of anti-racist sentiment, is a symbol of determination, is a symbol of direct action without violence, even in Arizona. But that's because you've whitewashed him. This is a man who literally would have supported Black Lives Matter, would probably want to see CRT taught in law schools, would want it taught to graduate students, and actually believed in a universal basic income, you see. So I just, but here we are all over again, fighting the same damn fight for voting rights that Dr. King fought and nearly, he died, but the people who followed him, like John Lewis, who is now passed, was beaten for. It's just, wow, it's an amazing thing. And here's another little number for you to ingest today. After Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated in Memphis, 31% of the country, 31% thought he brought it on himself. What makes me think that those 31% reproduce themselves and it is their children who actually are Trump supporters now? Which, by the way, he had a rally, the orange one did, over the weekend. It was tired. It was boring. It was poor. It was rehashed. It was recycled.
I'm glad you brought that up. I actually know there's somebody in my life who, is still a little bought in. And he brought it up. He said there was a rally, and I was watching it, and there was a couple things I liked, and then he started talking about January 6th, and I changed the channel.
Oh, it wasn't just January 6th. He talked about the election and it was rigged and that the big lie, that there is a big lie, is bull crap. He said, things like, how do you win Ohio and Florida and Iowa? And then I lost the election. I mean, really, everybody, sarcasm and all this stuff. I mean, not one shred of new material, not even a small little effort at creating new fantasies, at creating new conspiracies. Honestly, if he were still on TV, he'd be canceled because, it's so repetitive. There's no storyline. There's no new plot. There's no new characters. There's no development of the story. It's nothing. It's so disgustingly lazy on top of being offensive, on top of being a lie. And of course it was in Arizona. And he was telling people who are still QAnon adherents and Trump supporters, he was telling them that somehow he was there to decertify the election in that state. You know that legally that is not possible, right? It's just not even possible. It's very sick. It's very sad. It's just unbelievable. But there is good news today. There really is. I will tell it to you on the other side of the break because it's really good. But I just want to let you know that Dr. King was not a Marxist. He was not un-American or a race baiter. Okay? Don't have time to listen to the live show? Want to hear more on your schedule? Go to RandiRhodes.com and buy a stinking podcast.